This is Chester. Pretty much been my best friend for the past 4 years. On October 5th, I had let Chester out like I normally do, and he likes to go out and hunt and explore in the woods, and didn't think much about it. About an hour later, I heard a couple of gunshots up in the woods. You hear gunshots where I live all the time. It's a little rural community. Chester didn't come in, for breakfast the next morning. I didn't think, it's typical of him. Then by that night, I was kind of worried. So about 10 p.m. on the 6th, I started calling for him. He stumbled into the yard and he collapsed. And I went over and I could see that he was holding his arm up when he came in. And he had a hole in his shoulder and there was blood and he was crying. And I drove him down to the vet. It was a rough drive getting him down there. He was obviously in pain. From the time I'd heard the shots, I'm assuming that's when he got hit. It'd been 28 hours. So I got him to the animal clinic. They got him in, stabilized him, did x-rays, and he had sustained a 22 bullet wound to the shoulder, and it had shattered his shoulder blade and part of his leg, and he had bullet fragments, and actually a piece had traveled all the way across his chest and out the other shoulder, but didn't do any other damage. There was no muscle or nerve damage. So they thought they could save him, or they thought they could save the leg. Went through surgery fine the next day. He recovered well, and it was 3 days after surgery, he was supposed to come home. He was doing okay, and the vet called. He went into heart failure. Apparently he had undiagnosed congestive heart failure, and after all the stress and strain on his little body from the surgery and the wound, and he'd been on fluids for a couple of days, it just all built up, and he couldn't breathe, and his heart was just pumping, trying to keep him alive. And he also wasn't eating. He doesn't like to be in any type of captivity, so he refused to eat. And then when they tried to syringe feed him, he'd spit it up. So he was having liver problems. It's called fatty liver disease. When a cat doesn't eat after a couple of days, they start developing that. They put in a nasal feeding tube, which he absolutely hated, but I had to get food into him. So that helped him get formula and some of his medications. So 3 days after the heart failure incident, he came home. So like I said, he's a tenacious cat, and he fought through it. He was on about 5 different medications, and I had to feed him 4 times a day through this nasal tube, but he started coming around. At this point, the bills are roughly, at that point it was around $3,600. I scraped up what I could to pay for part of it. The vet takes what's called Care Credit. Care Credit's a medical credit card. I had a Care Credit account from a surgery. I had knee and back surgery this past year, and I just about had that all paid off. I actually have to have back surgery again this coming December. Now I've sacrificed that to pay for Chester. That kind of took all my credit to save him. I do it again. He's more of a dog than a cat. He greets me at the truck every day. If he's inside, he meets me at the door. If I'm on the Harley, he recognizes the sound of the bike and will run from where I can see him running across the field to meet me at the house. He's pretty much become an adopted father to, I have 2 rescue kittens a few years ago who are his. He's raised them. I'm very stray friendly now, so he lets the strays come and eat. And he and the other kittens will actually hunt and bring their food and give it to strays. Last year when I had knee surgery, I was stuck in bed for a lot, and I had some help, people come over, but I'd be in bed for a couple of days at a time, and he and the other cats would actually bring me food. It was kind of gross, but I don't really care for rodents and birds, but they were trying to feed me. And they'd curl up next to me because it was in the wintertime and keep me warm. And after all this, Chester's initial surgery failed. His little leg bones were too shattered and the pins came out. He can still use the leg. He has full muscle control and can claw with it, and he just can't put weight on it. Basically, his leg is just dangling, for lack of a better term. Once he heals up enough, he's going to have another surgery, so things are getting quite expensive. I also have an issue with the IRS this year. They audited some of the videos I do. I do freelance work, and they decided that my charity videos that I've done, they decided I couldn't write them off. So that kind of hurt because I got a huge tax bill right before all this happened with Chester. So in order to to help out, I thought, well, I'm going to have to sell my one prized possession, which is my Harley. So I put it up for sale. Well, Chester was starting to have this 2 weeks after his surgery. He started having some complications. He was having breathing issues, and it got to the point one day he just couldn't hardly breathe. He was just looking at me all pathetic, and I thought it was his heart again, the congestion. So I knew I needed to get him back to the hospital. Well, I needed to move the bike because it was out front, because there was a chance for it to rain that night, so I went to move it. Now, we hadn't had rain for about a week, and it was a beautiful sunny day. I wasn't thinking that my grass would be completely wet and muddy from where someone had spilled water on the farm next door, and a couple 100 gallons of water had run into my grass, and I didn't know about it. So when I turned the Harley around, hit the grass, the bike spun out from under me, crashed, did about $1,000 worth of damage to the bike, wrenched my knee and back worse, and basically there went the money to help pay for Chester's surgery. I got insurance, but with all the other bills from Chester's surgery, I can't pay the deductible. So there went that. I got Chester back, got him to the hospital. He was congested, but it was because of the nasal tube. It had actually caused congestion, so they took that out and had to put in an esophageal tube so I could feed him that way. So now it's been another 2 weeks. I'm still pretty sore myself. My knee's better, my back's killing me. But Chester's better. His health has improved greatly. He's getting out, he's eating more on his own. He's playing in the sun, just kind of starting to become closer to his old self, but he still can't use his leg. He doesn't have the full function. He never will until he gets this next surgery. Right now, my vet bills have added up, and with this other surgery, it's going to be anywhere from another $3,000 to $4,000. So I'm putting this video together. I'm going to put it out on various places, YouTube, Vimeo, and I'm making a Facebook page. You can check that out. It's Helping Chester, and you can email at helpingchester@yahoo.com, and there'll be a PayPal page or a PayPal account attached to that if anybody could help contribute. I'm trying to roughly raise between $7,000 and $9,000. All funds from this go directly to the medical bills. It's not for anything else. So I know you hear a lot from people, but this is strictly to help my cat. It's my best friend. So he's been there for me every day for the past 4 years. So if you could pass this along, I would appreciate it. If you could find it in your heart to donate the full amount, I would come on your show and sacrifice the last thing of value that I have left, which is my hair. I started growing my hair when I was 13 years old, and I just turned 38, so it's been with me that long. Basically, I kept it for the principle of it. I wanted to show people that my appearance didn't matter, that I could do a good job, and I wanted to inspire some kids. I was a summer camp counselor at a program, and I had a couple of punk students looking at me funny one day, and I was like, what is it? Like, we can't figure you out. You're like a metalhead, but with a brain. So that's kind of the whole reason I do it. So I just want people to show some of these kids that maybe people would just throw away otherwise, that they actually are worth something. So now I've turned down jobs for this. I won't cut it for jobs. My grandmother's bothered really by it since I was 13, has wanted me to cut it. So if you could donate the money to pay for my cat's medical bills, I would let you shave my head, and you could donate the hair to Locks of Love.